So anyway, yes, I just got back from Egypt. And so I do tours. I lead tours there. It was actually trip number 59.
59?
Yeah,
oh
it
my
might
gosh.
be 60, but it's one or the other. And so I had originally talked to you about talking about the Egyptian gods and goddesses, but then I really got a strong intuition that it would be good to talk about transformation.
Okay.
Because this is a lovely opportunity, and anyone that can get benefit from this, I would love to be able to share.
Oh,
you know?
I'm so glad you're doing that. Yes.
Now, Egypt is all about death and rebirth. And it's common that people come to Egypt at a time when they're between two chapters of their life. There is something that's been happening, some event comes about, and then there's the next chapter.
Yep.
And I think that this is happening to many of us right now, which is why I thought it would be good to talk about it.
Yep.
You know, so it's happening on a global level, it's happening on an individual level, and it's also happening just, you know, with groups of people as well. Now, and some people are doing just fine with it, and other people are struggling and having a lot of trauma as a result. Egypt is packed right now. And I think part of the reason, of course, all the wonderful shows about Egypt and everything, but I think part of the reason is that I often say that Egypt is the midwife. You see, like I said, it's all about death and rebirth. Everything, the temples, the tombs, everywhere you go, it's about the new beginnings. Something finishing and a new beginning. And so when a person is in a place in their life where that's happening anyway, people often are attracted to go to Egypt, which is a perfect intuition for them to get, because the energies of Egypt really are like a midwife. They really help people to move from one stage to another. And I thought a good example would be my mother. Okay. Now, I had been going to Egypt a number of times. I've been leading tours and everything, and she never had said she wanted to go or anything like that.
Okay.
And my father also would never get on a plane or travel or anything like that. So
my parents were the same way. Yeah.
So there was no way that was going to happen. And we used to have a girls' weekend out where we went to the hypnosis convention, the National Guild.
Right.
You know, and so we would go there for the weekend, and it was just our thing that we did each year. And interestingly enough, so we're going in and out of trance all weekend and getting intuitions, and we're getting guidance about this or that. And on the way home, my mother said to me, you know, I really want to go to Egypt with you. So what was that? What was that? Well, that was on Sunday. We were driving home. Tuesday morning, my father had a stroke and died.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So the guidance is already coming to her that Egypt would be a good thing for her, you know? So anyway, sure enough, I brought her, she was 80 years old at that point. I brought her to Egypt with me in November.
What a beautiful daughter.
You know, she had been married for like her adult life, and suddenly, you know, her partner is gone, and she was really thinking, you know, should I go too? You know, this is a normal thing for people to feel like in a situation like that. And anyway, she went into the Great Pyramid with me, and she lay down in the king's chamber, and she actually heard a voice. And the voice said, "You will rise again."
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
oh, that is great.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
you know? But sure enough, she lived for another 8 years, and she had a whole different chapter of her life. Because now that my dad wasn't there, she was sort of like the wise woman in the cabin in the woods.
Nice.
And all these people would come and sit and talk to her and things like that never would have happened if my dad had been there. So it was a brand new chapter for her. So that kind of thing is common when people go to Egypt, you know?
Wow.
And because doing all these tours, I see it over and over again. Somebody arrives and they've just been laid off, or they've had a death, or they've had something like that. And Egypt is there to help them make that next step.
Make the next
You
step,
know?
yep.
You know, I wanted to bring out that we as a whole nation, and also as a whole globe, we've had this death rebirth thing that's been happening because of the lockdowns and everything.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of people that suddenly had a chance to reevaluate their lives. You know, and you know, do I really want to be with this husband? Do I really want to be
We had a lot of
with
that.
this job? Do I want to be commuting to this job? These are the things that are happening to us right now, which is why I think there's so many people going to Egypt, you know. But anyway, so I wanted to bring out that how to get through this, okay? Because the thing is, when we go through a death rebirth process, it's messy. It's usually quite messy. I had a friend who had to redo her kitchen. You know, she had an older house in Connecticut, and as soon as they started taking things apart, they found other things that were wrong and floorboards that were, you know, and
Welcome to my
meanwhile
world.
she's trying to wash the dishes in the bathroom in the sink there, and you know, so it's uncomfortable when we go through these transition times, or it can be.
That was a great
You know?
example of it.
Yeah, so this is part of what we as a human species are going through right now, because what happened was when the internet came in and we suddenly had this massive amount of information, things changed. You know, when I first went to Egypt in 1996, they had censorship. You could not even bring a magazine in. And
really?
the TV channels were all run by the government. So it was extremely, you know, limited. Well, now the internet, it's all wide open. And this is happening in different ways, different countries, but for different people in different ways. Suddenly, you know, one of the people I'm friendly with in Egypt, his son is a teenager, and he had shown me some app, and I said, well, how'd you find that? He said, well, I was playing a game with a girl in Australia, and she told me about it. Well, so this generation of people are global.
Right.
That is a change that humanity has never gone through before. Okay, so we're in that death and rebirth process as a whole globe too. And it's affecting each one of us in our own individual ways, you know?
Yeah. So much.
So this is what's going on. So anyway, the question then arises, how do we get through it? Right?
Yeah, believe me. Yeah.
So what I wanted to point out is that the way that we will suffer the most is when we don't accept the changes that have already come about. The immediate reaction is to try to grab on and, you know,
Hold on tight, yeah.
you know, like a cat on the, you know,
Yeah.
like that. So that we're going to have those feelings, but the more that we can assess the reality of what's happening and accept it somehow, you know, I mean, that will determine the amount of happiness and peace that we have. Because the opposite is when we don't accept it, then we're going to suffer.
Right.
Because that's going to bring about pain. And I had another little thing story to share about this from my own personal life that really brought this whole concept home to me. Okay, it was at the beginning of my spiritual path, really, and I was kind of experimenting with what's real and how does it all work and all these kinds of things. And so I was going to a weekend retreat, and I thought, I'm going to do a little experiment. I'm going to decide that from the moment I leave the house till the moment I come back, anything that happens is a gift from the Holy Spirit, because that's what I called it at that point.
Cool.
So I said, whatever. I'm just going to stick with it, and I'll see what happens. And it's only for a limited period of time. I'm not giving my life away or something like that. Right. So anyway, I went to the retreat center. It was little different things happening, no big deal. And on Sunday, when I was going to begin to come back the next morning, I suddenly came down with what we used to call the 24-hour bug, where you're throwing up, right? And when I was up until that point, when I was a kid and everything, to vomit to me was the worst experience ever. I can remember thinking, I would rather die than to have to go through this. I mean, that's how awful it was to me. Okay? So here I am. I've decided everything is just, going to be
rainbows
a
and
gift, So if it's a gift from me, then I'm not going to resist it, right? So I said, okay. I decided I'm going to follow through with it. And you know what happened?
What?
I still had to, lose my cookies, so to speak. But it was no big deal. It was unpleasant right at the moment, but it was no big thing. The contrast from the way I had experienced it when I was in resistance to it. I mean, I used to lie there because, the minute you move, you're going to have to throw up. And I would just, stay stiff like this because I didn't want it to happen. Yeah.
Right.
The difference between that and just like, this is an inconvenience, is huge. Yeah. And it was only determined by how I was viewing it in my mind. When the whole COVID thing started and it was locked down and then, she just said, okay, everything's going online.
Yep.
Done deal. No questions, that's the way it's going to be. Everything's online. Okay, so guess what happened? The number of people attending her Sunday morning service doubled.
Wow.
Okay? More than
isn't
doubled.
That cool?
More than doubled. Because she just assessed the situation. She probably got some help from Spirit.
Yeah.
But then she just made a choice and that was it. Right? Now, other churches, like I know one, where I live, they're like, well, maybe if we all social distance and if everybody's required to wear a mask and all this. And you know what all those things did? Was they ended up getting people within the congregation angry at each other because some people wanted this, some people wanted that, and it just caused all this well, what are we doing this week? Is it going to be hybrid where some people will be, and it was all this commotion. Meanwhile, Janet has just decided and her church is thriving.
Right.
You see, so that's an example of how some people, when these changes come about, do great with it.
Right.
And other people have all these problems. And we're probably all a mix, actually, of both.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to really point out what is it that makes it difficult for us, because if we're aware of that and we find ourselves being upset or whatever, we can say, wait a minute, what am I resisting that is true? And when we discern that, then we can make a new choice. And the other thing too is that you notice a lot of people are talking about decluttering. Like I'm getting rid of this or all these kinds of things. And that is a symptom of the whole death rebirth process. You're going to clear things out, So people who are doing that are going with the flow because it's appropriate right now.
So I just want to put in, this is Ruth Schilling. You can find her on Facebook. She does a lot of interesting travels and stuff. She also does the spoon bending, and by the time this airs, she'll have already done it at my shop. A few of the old timers that are there are so excited that you're coming to the shop again.
Oh, great. Well,
And,
it'll be a pleasure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So are you doing any other are you doing readings and stuff like that, or?
Well, right now I'm so involved in the Egypt tours. I have like 4 tours coming up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I do still have more books. I've authored quite a few books. One is on intuition, learning how to get guidance, direct guidance, and things like that. And
My
then-
first book, I'm a third of the way through, and I just,
Yeah.
shiny penny, I go to that way.
Yeah, but there's a follow-up for that one, and I have some others. So I am doing some things. I do some private readings, but not a lot.
Not a lot, not a lot anymore.
But I do the channeling now, which is really my love. You know, if we follow the guidance, we're always so much better off, you know?
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
I think we're getting close to wrapping it up, so I want to make sure that I say again, it's Ruth Schilling. Check her on Facebook. As I said, she does a lot to do with Egypt that I think you'd really enjoy, just the pictures, if nothing else. She's got quite a few books out that are extremely helpful. And if you can't get it through her, give me a call and I'll connect the two of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.